What is going on? I am so excited that you are here. Welcome to the Table Podcast with your girl, Briana and In. I literally have been so excited to finally do this podcast. I have been trying to do a podcast for such a long time. And you know what? I'm just diving in. I am doing this, imperfections and all, moving through the motions, just going to spill. I have so much to talk about in so many different ways. And I'm excited that we're starting here together. If you do not know me, you're not subscribed, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Briana Perret. If you are subscribed to my channel, you are around, you do know me. I just want to give you a quick shout out and say thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for your support. And thank you so much for literally like watching this right now. Like, thank you. Like, you know what I mean? When you put in some effort into some content and then you actually got people watching, I'd be like, oh my God. Like every time I look at my views, I'm like like one person's in my house. Oh my gosh, two people are in my house. Oh my God, 18 people are in my house. Like, it's exciting to kind of see things grow and see that, there are people that are watching. Like, that's how I think of it. I'm like, imagine 18 people in your house. That's a big deal, right? And so, thank you for being here. Thank you for watching. Thank you for tuning in. And I'm excited to get this project rolling and do this podcast. So, let's talk about this podcast. What's my reasoning for it? I'm not going to lie. Before I actually got on here, I was like, my stomach started to hurt. I was like, should I be doing this? Should I not be doing this? Like I said, this is something I've wanted to do for quite some time now. I'm not going to lie to you. However, I, have had so many different reasons as to why I couldn't. I started and then I had to stop. There was so many different things that was going on in my life. And I realized that my biggest issue with doing a podcast is the perfectionism in it, right? It's the, having the right equipment, looking the part, making sure you have the best background, all that stuff. And to be completely honest, I love watching podcasts that have the whole setup because it's dope. It is tuning into a show. It is like this really cool production that I think is so amazing. People have like the lights and the cameras and they got the background. I mean, yo, give me an unlimited amount of resources to hook up a podcast and baby, you already know it's lit. Okay. I love hooking that stuff up, organizing things, putting things together. That truly is a joy of mine. And maybe one day we will get that. But I started thinking about authenticity and I'm just like, you know what? Let's just do it. Like, let's just do it. Like, y'all finna see my room door. Y'all finna see the background and we're just gonna do it. We're just gonna be here and talk because the things that I want to talk about and what this podcast is about is important to me. So again, thank you for being here and let's dive into this. So the table, why is it called the table? Because believe it or not, I am sitting at a table and really what this podcast is all about, it's about creating and building better relationships with ourselves in order for us to have more genuine, beautiful connections with others. And if you're somebody that has been on your healing journey and you have just been kind of pushing to like become a better you or whatever the case is, this podcast is for you. And if you are someone that has not been on their healing journey and you're not in any way, shape, or form kind of building yourself up, but you kind of want to start, or you're just like intrigued to learn more about yourself or whatever the case is, this podcast is also for you. I want to take the idea of who we are and put it at the forefront. I want to kind of start looking at ourselves and how we connect and how we get into relationships, romantic, platonic, even family relationships, professional relationships. I want to change kind of the way that we're viewing it, the perspective we have of like how we're meant to show up. I see what society has done. Society has made us really like follow certain rules when it comes to meeting someone, following certain roles that we're supposed to play. What a friend is, what a boyfriend is, a girlfriend is, a wife, a husband, what a good, worker is, all that stuff. And there's this thing inside of me that is like, we are consistently dealing with trying to be our best selves. And I am I'm guilty of this, okay? Because not only have I been on the best self journey, but I've also been a coach, coaching people to be their best selves. And the one thing that I realized with coaching people to be their best selves is that the coaching and who they are and the best parts of them wasn't necessarily the like idealistic parts that society makes us believe. Like, I, interestingly enough, became like a love coach where people came to me a lot about their relationships more than anything else. And, I thought I would be like more of like a mindset and encouragement coach, but I started realizing, I'm like, oh my gosh, there's a lot of love cases that I receive. And the one thing that it always stems back to, it always comes back to, it always makes a difference, is it comes back to my client, it comes back to me, it comes back to you when it comes to relationships. And so when I think about relationships and I think about, the conversations that people are having today about what a woman's role is, what a man's role is, what a good relationship looks like, how we meet each other, people who are dating, how the dating sector and the dating pool just sucks, how it's difficult to date when you're over 30 versus, not wanting to date a certain way when you're under 30. There's so many different conversations, but the one conversation that has gone on for such a long time, and I don't know if it's dead or not, I don't know if this conversation is still happening, but I've done some research and I'm like, people are still bringing this up, is what do you bring to the table? And we are hearing women defend themselves. We're hearing men ask the question. We're hearing men defend themselves. Women ask the question. It's an amazing conversation. And I remember when it first dropped, what do you bring to the table? I remember being like that was my reaction. My reaction was like, ew, like, what are we talking about? Right. And it wasn't the question that had me so like, ugh, about it. It was the responses. The responses is what killed me. It killed me that women couldn't answer or wouldn't answer, or when they did answer, they're like proving themselves. It would hurt me to see that men are answering the question too, basically proving themselves. I was realizing that as much as I kept saying in the past, like, oh, I just hate that question. It's so stupid. It's so this, it's so that. I actually like the question. The question isn't the problem, but the way we're answering is. In this podcast, we're going to really go through, what relationships are and how to be a better version of ourselves. And better isn't exactly what we think. This podcast is going to be a little counterintuitive. It's going to kind of like, speak to us, but not from the way that we're used to looking at ourselves, but from a way that we need to start looking at ourselves. Okay. And I'm going to just give you my philosophy. When it comes to what we bring to the table, I think we're answering the question so incredibly wrong. We keep talking about the things that we physically bring or the things that we internally bring, like peace and integrity and we make a house a home, or, I bring money, I bring, the ability for you to feel protected and safe. And there's this thing going on right now where I'm looking at the questions we're posing and I'm looking at what's happening. And humans, people, connection is so much deeper than we make it to be, right? Over the course of time, it's become this thing where everyone is just trying to understand themselves and trying to find a level of freedom. And I feel like this question, although it can seem like it's ego on ego, the one thing that I'm seeing is good ego is a beautiful thing. And so being able to talk yourself up and speak on your accomplishments and speak on who you are is fantastic. But I think that's the problem. I think the biggest issue when it comes to relationships is that we go into them being our best selves, right? Like we go into them kind of with the best persona that we can possibly put on, whether it be real or fake. We have been conditioned as a society to see life and to see connection as popularity contest, right? Who's more likable? How can you be more likable? How can you be more social? Things of that sort. And so when we pose this question, it's just so surface level, right? And I'm not saying that it's not important. I think finances and looks and sex and all those things are extremely important. But I also believe that there is a lot of beautiful things in us being so authentic and raw about what we actually bring to the table, not just the good things. I realize in every interview and every conversation that people, are bringing up that question, I'm like, wow, everyone is answering it, basically proving how either women as a whole are fantastic, men as a whole are fantastic, or they are fantastic. And of course, you have, fantastic points across the board. I would hear some interviews. I was doing a lot of research on this, and I was hearing some interviews where I was like, wow, that's a great point. And not from like a biased state. It was just like, I love some of the points that people are making. I'm also seeing the reluctancy. I'm also seeing a greater divide. We're not helping the situation be, or, we're not helping men and women get to know each other. We're not helping spouses understand each other. We're not helping people come closer together. It's a popularity contest. It's a contest. It's a who's better contest, right? And maybe that's the point, right? Like that question, maybe that's the point. Maybe the point is to see who's better. Fine. I want to change the conversation around a little bit. And here in this podcast, I want to talk about what we as humans actually bring to the table. And I want it to start being something that is normal. We're so busy auditioning for one another. We're so busy, caring about other people's judgments, even when we claim that we don't care. Every persona that we put on in front of others, who we are socially, has a lot to do with judgment and how people are going to see us. And if you're one of the lucky people that have learned to truly just love yourself despite what anyone thinks, more power to you. But for the most of us, we actually care about connecting. We actually care about each other. We actually want friends and people in our lives. And I realized that the way we've been going about meeting each other, connecting with one another, and, showing up is low-key wrong. Now, this is opinion, but this is also like deep feeling. And I want us to kind of look at things from a new perspective. We live in a world where everyone has to put on, everyone has to be their best self all the time. And that's the problem. We're meeting people who are showing up as fantastic, and we are showing up as fantastic. Everything about us, from our looks to what's going on with us, to our jobs, all of that, it's always just put on, put on, put on. It's like going to an interview for a job. You are starting a brand new job, and you are going to go to the interview really presenting why you are the best candidate for this job. I don't know about you, but when you interview somebody and you go in, you know that they're putting on their best, which means that their resume, their background, what you see on paper, and what they present to you is basically all that you have to work with. But then in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year, is where you really get to understand who this person is, because they start to get comfortable. They allow themselves to kind of, show you the truth. They show you where they mess up. They show you where they're not so strong. Somebody can talk about all of their strengths and how amazing they are and still not be that strong. Still have a lot of things that they kind of either exaggerated or left out. And the biggest issue with society, dating, relationships, and connections is that we are constantly hiding like half of who we actually are. And we are always trying to put on for people. We are always trying to show up a certain kind of way. We are always proving that we are more than best, version of ourselves, showing up beautifully. And I'm like, that's the issue. That's the problem. We are getting in relationships and we are attracted to people that aren't even their full selves. They are showing up as a certain version of themselves, a smaller version of themselves, or the version of themselves that they believe is acceptable and liked by society or liked by you. And you do it too, right? We literally all do this to each other. And then we get into these connections, these friendships, these relationships, especially romantic ones. And we are constantly in this state of, hiding. Even it's not really until we start getting comfortable with one another do we start to show our true selves. And it's in that true self that you really get to see, okay, is this my person? Is this not? Are we compatible? Are we not? Is this good friendship? Is this not good friendship, right? You start to like weave in and out what is the truth of the relationship. That's why we find people will connect with one another and have problems with one another. They'll have issues with one another because it's like, you weren't who I met. I fell in love with one version of you, and now you're a whole different version of you. How you handle certain things isn't necessarily what I expected, right? Because I've seen you in a certain light for such a long time, and now you're in this light, and that's different because I never met that light in my life. And I think the truth of the matter is that we're in a position right now where that question And how we meet each other is just so surface. And that question helps me to understand that we all just want depth. That question isn't really asking, what do you bring to the table? That question is saying, who are you? Who are you? That's what we're really asking each other. We don't really care what you bring to the table because the table could be full. And if no one is there, there's no witness to that. There's no real connection in that. You can love your own company, but that doesn't mean you don't want companionship. We bring ourselves to the table all the time. And we don't talk enough about ourselves. Not in the, here are all of my accolades and here's who I am with, but in the, here's the truth of who I am. I actually am a go-getter, but it's been very difficult for me to stay consistent. Imagine knowing that about someone up front. Imagine being in a position where your connections weren't based off of how great everyone was, but based off of whether or not you can deal with each other's differences, whether or not you could see each other and connect based off of who you truly are, because you're not always hiding the what you would consider the worst parts of yourself. Imagine if we lived in a society where we were a lot more compassionate and a lot more loving towards the uglier parts of ourselves, where everybody didn't have to look their best or be their best all of the time. Because naturally, as humans, that's the one thing we know: we're all imperfect. My reality and your reality is completely different realities. Completely different. You could have grown up a completely different way than I have grown up. So what I know and what you know is just not the same. And we think that connections is based off of, the exact same thing. We both like the same things, value the exact same things, connect in the exact same way. But connection, good connection, genuine connection, yes, may have some of that, but it's really our differences, right? Being able to meet in the middle, knowing how truly different you are, knowing that there are things that are not so fantastic, not so easy, not so simple, that connect you or that allow you to work through, right? Knowing somebody, knowing another person and all of their flaws, who they are to the core, how they show up, and knowing that you can grow and heal and build through that, that is connection. And it's a connection that most of us don't really get to experience in our lifetimes. And the ones that do, oh my goodness, we all see it and we're like, wow, there's a part of us that just loves that, because that is true connection, being able to be accepted for exactly who you are and accept others for exactly who they are. And if we started to allow ourselves to be more open to our truest, genuine selves, and that was the norm, we would connect to our soulmates, we would connect to our soul family, we would connect to exactly who we need to connect with a lot easier. But we're too busy not allowing ourselves to be vulnerable with one another, that we're looking at the outside for answers that only our insides, our true selves, our spirits, and our souls could truly answer. And so on this podcast, we're really going to go through how to really love ourselves, be authentic, and show up, how important authenticity is in relationships, because it is so important in relationships, like beyond important in relationships. And it's something that a lot of people struggle with. So on this podcast, it's going to be a little different. You're going to see funky backgrounds. You're going to see my hair done. You're going to see my hair not done. You're going to see me in my most authentic state, because this needs to be more comfortable. We need to allow ourselves to breathe, to not have to hold on to the perfection that was literally conditioned in us years ago. That in order for you to be of value, you have to look, speak, walk, talk, and be a certain kind of way, knowing that no matter how perfect you look on the outside, there's always imperfections, there's always mistakes, and there's always things that happen behind closed doors, on the inside, etc., etc. And I feel like the biggest reasons why we don't allow ourselves to really show up as our true selves is because we're so afraid of judgment, so afraid of going outside of the norm, so afraid of being picked on, that we just kind of stay inside the lines. We allow society to dictate who we are and how we're going to show up. And this podcast, we're just going to learn to do it differently. So we're going to talk about things that you may agree with and talk about things that you may not agree with. And that's okay. It's truly just conversation. But most importantly, it's being authentic. Authenticity is the revolution. And if we want greater relationships and connections with people, then we have to actually know ourselves. And we do have to know what we bring to the table. Not just the beautiful, not just the pretty, but what do we as a collective, men, women, all kinds of people, what do we bring to the table? That's beautiful and that isn't. And when we can identify who we are, both on the acceptable, societal acceptance, whatever side, and exactly what we bring that maybe society doesn't accept as much, or maybe is more hidden. When we understand ourselves as a whole, but we can show up as our true selves, we can say, yeah, honestly, I bring a lot of beautiful things to the table. And also, I'm the kind of person that, I'm a little boring. I'm the kind of person that actually, I don't like to clean my home. I don't like to X, Y, and Z. I'm actually somebody that is still struggling with daddy issues and things of that sort. And it wasn't something that got judged on the other side. It was something that we were just more intrigued and curious about one another. We just wanted to understand each other a little bit more, because if you don't understand it or you never experienced it, it's just like, wow, here I am connecting to another human. Here we are able to just have a genuine conversation that isn't just surface, that isn't me trying to show up and say the right thing. Imagine a world where being you was fully 100% authentically accepted, even if it's different from everybody else. That right there is what we're doing on this podcast. So I'm excited to dive in. Thank you so much for tuning in. And next week, we are definitely diving into authenticity, because we need to get into it. Okay. Make sure you're tuned in. I cannot wait to see you there, even though I can't see you, but I could feel you. Do you see what I'm saying? Because I be visualizing and I feel like I'm seeing you see me. Okay, we're right here. But this is going to be an authentic conversation. Y'all going to see every part of me that shows up, okay? Because I don't know what's going to happen, but I do know that the conversations we're having here is so incredibly important. And being able to understand yourself, being able to show up authentically is going to change your life, because it did for me. And I've watched it change for so many others. And so it's time for you to be able to feel good with who you are. And let's change the way that we're connecting to one another, because it's time. Okay? Until next time, I'm sending you love. I'll see you here next week. Bye.